Good morning. This is MS. You have hope. Today, our guest is Norma Ortiz from Mexico City. Good morning, Norma.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I have a cold, a bit of a cold, but with vitamin D3, it's not been so harsh, and so I'm doing well.
Good. Norma surprised me today because I've been on doing the protocol and been involved with it over 5 years. Um, Norma is over 4 years, and I think she's
Yes,
coming up on 5 years. That really surprised me that she'd been that long. But people, does the protocol work? There is 5 years set in front of you, and here's 5 years, and I'm here to tell you, I have a good life. I may have some disabilities from MS, and Norma may have some small things, but Norma was secondary progressive. I was secondary progressive, and I still have a good life. I have a mind. Norma is a lawyer, and to be a
I
lawyer,
am.
mine has to be sharp. Well, it should be sharp anyway, but um, Norma's a lawyer. I do these interviews and stuff. Our minds are sharp. We may have lost some may have some disabilities, but we lead good lives. Anyway,
Exactly.
um, I'm going to read a short disclaimer here, so Norma's friends don't sue me. No, I'm just kidding. And then we're going to jump right in the interview. Our topic today is about mental health and our mental health and MS. It's maybe some things that we have to face. Here we go. This interview addresses multiple sclerosis and the treatment of it using the Coimbra protocol. We are not doctors and are not giving medical advice for the treatment of your MS. Ways and methods of treating chronic autoimmune conditions vary from person to person and should be cared for by a licensed medical professional. We are sharing our own personal experiences, and this testimony is of those experiences. Again, with us this morning is Norma Ortiz. And Norma, jump right in. How are you doing? Share with people a little bit about your background and how you're doing right now, and then we'll jump into the mental health aspect of it.
Yes, of course. In a nutshell, I was diagnosed with MS on December 2008, and after a very complicated period of mostly 10 years, where I hadn't the medicines, the regular medicines approved by the FDA were not helping my disease and were not stopping the progression of MS. On the contrary, they were worsening all the symptoms. I found the Coimbra protocol on internet, and I started on April 2018. So this April, I'm going to turn 5 years with the protocol. And since I've been on the Coimbra protocol, my MS stopped. The progression of the MS stopped, and I recovered my life. I my mind started. It was always foggy, and it started to be clear and sharp,
Yes.
and I started to sleep properly, and I had a lot of like a tingling feelings on my arms and on my hands and on my knees, and that tingling effect stopped also. And last year, no, on 2021, I had an MRI, and my neurologist who started with me on this progress process, the first neurologist that evaluated me, he saw my MRI, and he told me the MS has not progressed. You do not have new lesions. The lesions that you have are not bigger, and so since the MS has not progressed, you should not stop the Coimbra protocol. And that was told by me by a regular doctor, no? So a
Amen.
regular neurologist.
Amen. Because normally neurologists, when you tell them, they're like, "Well, I don't want you to do that. You're too much vitamin D can be toxic." And nowadays, um, I guess the mischievous side comes out of me, and I just want to look at them and go, you know. And because I
I
feel,
understand.
I said to my
But
neurologist last year, I said, I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. I said, maybe I can't walk and do some of the things I used to do, but as far as how I feel, the Coimbra protocol works. All right. So, Norma, we're going to talk about an issue today that she had more than me, and that is your mental health
exactly.
issues. And let's jump into that a little bit.
Yes, well, the idea of doing this interview for me, it's very important to share how mental health affects us MS patients, because I understand that a lot of people are not aware of this, that very big depressions go attached with MS, and sometimes you're not you're misunderstood. People are not compassionate with us, and they think that we're just being exaggerated, or even well, yes, very apprehensive because of the diagnose. But it's not that we're just depressed emotionally because we have been diagnosed with MS, but it's also because our chemistry, the brain
Yes.
chemistry, is affected because of the MS. Since our immune system is not functioning properly and it's suppressed, the chemistry in our brain is not uh, function properly, so we get huge depressions.
And it's something, I'll jump in here. It's something you touch on there that about what is happening to you, and people think you can control it and it's a normal thing. Even though you have the disease, you can control, and you can't control emotions. I was just telling Norma when we were talking a few minutes ago, my wife used to walk in the room and I'd be crying, and she'd say, "What are you crying about?" I'd be like, "Oh, you should see this little boy on TV," and I couldn't control my
Exactly.
emotions. Now I still cry, but I can control my emotions better. When I say I still
Exactly.
cry, I cry whenever something is sad, but I don't. I'm a crier. I can control when I cry usually. Go ahead,
No,
Norma.
but there's a difference in being sensitive, which is perfectly and it's
Yes,
okay because
yes,
everybody's different. But when people we have MS and we have a lesion and our immune system is attacking itself, our chemistry in our brain is not functioning properly. So dopamine and other chemicals are not being generated as normally. So that's
yes.
why we get huge depressions. And also in my case, I had lesions in the right part of my brain where the emotions are controlled or managed, to say this in colloquial words. But so therefore the depressions were much bigger. So I used to have suicidal thoughts. i
Oh
didn't
my!
i didn't want to wake up, o sea, get out of bed or get into a shower. I got into the shower and I had panic attacks. I mean, it was very severe. So, and also your depressions have stages, no? Sometimes you're depressed and you're very angry, so you're also aggressive and you're not being able to socially connect with people. So um this is why I wanted to share this, because people with MS are having a really hard time when they're not diagnosed properly, when their treatment is not being serving them or helping them. So sometimes people with MS are have lower like sensitivity to things, like you're less tolerant to things because you're having a very hard time. Your body is not
Exactly.
responding. You cannot walk properly. Some people cannot lose their sight, and so, and your bladder is not functioning properly. So and you have a huge depression. So it's normal that everything makes you angry and that you're not able to function socially as you used to. So you're
There's something
changing,
I'm.
you're losing yourself.
There's something I want to touch on there. That's exactly what I was going through. I would go sit in the sun at the gym. What was the sauna doing? It was raising my temperature up. Then I would take a hot shower and then I'd walk outside and I was like, oh, I don't feel right. And my heart would start racing. And I'd have a severe panic attack and they take me to the doctor. And by the time I get to the doctor, what would happen? My body temperature would cool down. I would be fine. They'd run all these tests on me and they'd be like, you're fine. You're just overworked or whatever. And, people think, my wife thinks I'm a hypochondriac and people think they'll tell you it's all in your head. Well, when I finally got MS, I was happy. And the reason is that now all of those symptoms that I was feeling, now I know that I wasn't making them up, that it was real. It was something in my brain. And that's exactly what Norma's saying there is that things are happening in your brain and it's causing a change. And we're not, I don't want to say we're not fully aware of it, but it's foreign to us. And then when we tell it to our spouse, our mother and father, our kids, they're like, you'll get over it. So anyway, go ahead, Ron.
Exactly. You described it perfectly well. Since you are not fully aware of what's happening to your body, since there is not a diagnosis, and these changes are very strange to you, they're not normal. So you're having like a mental breakdown, and people don't understand you, no? And then when you have a diagnosis, people also don't understand the severity of the disease. It's a very severe disease. It a lot of people have disabilities or are in wheelchairs or bedridden. So and people, 50% of the people that are diagnosed with MS probably will die. So this is not a small thing. Also, it's very severe. It changes all your life and your surroundings, because it also affects your friends, your family, your partners, your job, etc. So this is very important for me to share that the people with MS which are not being treated properly, or their MS hasn't not stopped progressing, they're going to be depressed. They're going to be in a bad mood. They're not
Yeah.
going to be know what's happening to them, and they're going to be sometimes aggressive, because losing your capacity to walk, your sight probably, or your capacity to swallow foods or to talk, it's not a small thing. It's very
There's
aggressive for us, and it hurts a lot. So, and it doesn't help that our brain is not properly functioning. So we have severe depressions, we have panic attacks, we're crying all the time, or we're angry all
yeah,
the time, we're aggressive, we're our personalities are changing, we're not ourselves. So this is why I wanted to share this, because it's very important for people with MS who hasn't been which their disease has not stopped progressing. They're going to be like this, and it's very important for people around them to be compassionate and to comprehend that this is not easy, that we're not
there's
doing that on purpose.
there's something that we touched on then and that I want to tell people. Panic attacks and anxiety is common with MS. That's
Exactly.
not a symptom of MS. Okay, what it is the panic attacks and anxiety are caused by the MS because, like in my case, I didn't know what was happening, and so you get anxious. So it's not like uh, the lesions or whatever don't cause the anxiety. The anxiety is caused by uh, the changes in your body generally.
Exactly. Exactly. And the depression, I was explained by a neurologist, when you have certain lesions in your brain, that those lesions do cause the depression. So, I mean, so this is why I wanted to explain that it's a consequence of the disease, and not just because you're not being able to handle your disease. So, yes, you have an emotional part where you're very sad because your
Yeah.
life has changed, and it's difficult to handle this. Yes, okay. But there's also a physical part where your brain is not functioning properly, so you cannot control this depression.
Yes.
And even though if you're medicated by a psychiatrist, it's going to be complicated to get out of that depression. It's going to take time. So that's
Yes.
what I wanted to share. To share the real information behind mental health and then with MS.
Yes, definitely. I couldn't agree with you more because see what happened to me is in about 2008, I started having panic attacks, anxiety attacks. And when I would go on vacation, I'd always have one. Well, guess what? On vacation, what do? You sit in the sauna or you sit in a hot tub, raises your temperature. I'd get out of the hot tub and I'd have a panic attack and off to the emergency room we'd go. And my wife got to where she hated going on vacation with me because I'd always have
Exactly.
a anxiety attack. And now it's like, whenever you realize what's happening, then you can say, see, I haven't had a panic attack in years and years. And it's because I don't have those symptoms because I did the Coimbra protocol. All the symptoms are gone, all the panic is gone. I mean, the thing that was making me panic is totally gone. And when you finally find it out, you're so relieved. You're so relieved. Somebody
Exactly.
said, I think my wife said to me on the day I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, "You're happy, aren't you?" And I said, "You damn right, I'm happy." I mean, all those years, all those feelings, all those things, you have a reason and a name. And it's like now, maybe you're feeling sad, maybe you're crying, just what Norma is talking about. Maybe something mentally is not right. It affects your brain. Okay. Now, as far as a credit card right now, when I call, I give them my credit card number. I've memorized it. It's 16 numbers. When I got sick with MS, two numbers. That's all I could remember.
Exactly.
It really did affect my mind. So, is
And
that all
that's
you got
very
to
hard
say?
for any human. No, and that's very hard for any human being to watch how
Absolutely.
you start losing yourself, your capacity, your independence, your ability to remember things. You're like, what? My brain used to function properly. What's happening to me? It's a very difficult process, and that's why it's very important to make awareness about mental health with MS, so people are more well, they have the information and can understand better their patients that or the persons connected to them that have MS.
Yeah, you need to understand when you get MS, MS affects everything. I never knew when I got MS that it was going to affect my emotions so much, my thinking. I mean, I felt like an Alzheimer's patient. I used to be able to see pictures in my mind, but I couldn't speak them for some reason. I just, the words would not come out. And that was so aggravating. Well, Norma, I think our time's about up here. Zoom cuts me
Yes.
off at 20 minutes now. So we're about 18, which is actually good for me and a lot of people that I interview because if we could talk, we'd talk for an hour. So I
Exactly.
I appreciate everything you've done and so good to it's always good to visit with you. But people, if you're out there and you're contemplating the Coimbra protocol, Norma, tell them why should they do it?
Because it really changes your life. I thought there was no solution, and I found it, and I recovered my life, and I'm me again. So you should give it a try. I tried a lot of things, and nothing helped me as the Coimbra protocol because vitamin D3 is and all the protocol really is a medical protocol which will stop the progression of your MS.
You know what, people, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. We were discussing before we came on air, and I know Norma will back this up. I no longer wake up every day and think, what is going to happen today? Why can't
Exactly.
MS just, it's a distant memory for me. Now we have disabilities. Norma in airports, she said she took the wheelchair and her foot was cramping up, but we
Exactly.
still, we still live pretty decent lives. I have a family. I'm very active. I'm probably more active now than I was before I got diagnosed. But I just, every one of you, if I could bend down and grab your ankles and beg you to do this, I would. But I don't do that because there's too many of you out there that want to get better. You want to go to your little boy or little boy's baseball game, your little girl's dance recital, and you're laying in bed and you think, I'm never going to get better. That's the way I was. I was like, there's nothing out there. I was getting worse and worse and worse. And so, anyway, Norma, thank you. It's
Thank you, John.
always a pleasure to see you. And I look forward to more
Same,
interviews.
same here.
How is your television show in Mexico going?
Well, stop right now. I don't have my television show anymore, but it's still on the internet.
Okay. Well, I hope to have something one of these days. I'll interview you some more. And if anybody out there knows of somebody that wants to try the protocol or talk to people about it, Norma and I are always available to answer any
Exactly.
questions or help you. It works, it works, it works. That's all I can say to people. All right, Norma, I guess it's it. We can gab all day. If it was me, I'd talk to you all day. Okay.
Have a very nice day, John. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.